Merry Meet and welcome to Tarot class here at Tarot Tuesday at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga and we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. And moderating today on YouTube is the lovely Heather, or the lovely Honeypaw, and moderating on Twitch is the lovely Deline. Thank you so much, Honeypaw, and thank you so much, Deline. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. We're going to be going over the Moon card today in just a moment. Just as a reminder, we are here every Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific for a tarot class. And in about a half an hour, just under a half an hour, we will have a premiere on this channel. So if you're around right after this class is finished, please join us for that. And we have no time to waste, so let's get going. You know all the drill. You know that we have a shop. You know that you can donate if you feel like. You know that we're here 6 days a week. All of that. So I don't want to bore you with announcements because we've got too much to talk about. So today we've got, I pulled out a bunch of decks today. I have 6 decks. It's a little overkill. But the Moon card is one of those cards that can be confusing for some people. So I thought maybe we'd take a little time and just compare the different versions of it and talk about what it can mean in divination, but also especially what it can mean esoterically in our own spiritual growth. All right, let's start out with the one that everybody's most familiar with usually, and that's the Rider-Waite-Smith version. Okay, so there's a dog, a wolf, a crayfish, 2 pillars, a moon with a bunch of yods. This crayfish is coming out of the water, and there is this piece of dry land, and then it looks like that there's more water behind. All right. Now let's look at one of the older Marseille interpretations of this card, from which this deck was inspired. Okay, this one it's not obvious that it's a dog and a wolf here. There's just 2 canine figures, but there are still 2 towers. There is no indication of what's behind here, but there is a pool of water out of which the crayfish is coming out. This is still a profile of a face in the moon. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this has rays similar to a sun. This almost depicts here maybe the full moon, but it's also sort of almost a symbol of the fact that the moon is a reflection of the sun. Okay, these aren't yods. These are just droplets coming down. All right, let's see what else we got here. We've got another Marseille. This is about the same. Almost identical. This is almost identical. Yeah, there's really nothing different, so it's not helping us too much. Let's look at this Besançon version of it. Okay, this is a little different. You can't really see the crayfish here. I'm sure that's what that's supposed to be. But there's almost like a bridge here, which is unusual. No, it's not almost like a bridge. It is a bridge. That's unusual. So there's a bridge crossing the water here. And then there's no profile of the moon either. These clouds almost look like they're pathways. So these are, again, 2 canines baying at the moon, but you can't tell if it's dog, wolf, or combination thereof. I'm assuming that's a dog and that's a wolf, but because of the tail, but it's really not super duper obvious. Okay, and then we've got the Italian. This is really old, if you can even see here. We've definitely got a crayfish here. There's, is that a dog? And then that a wolf? Or are these both dogs? I can't tell. There are still 2 definite towers there, and there's this body of water here. It's more scenic and less symbolic, less obviously symbolic. You can even see some ships out here. So that's like a sea scene. Okay, here's the Manly P. Hall esoteric deck. And this is all purely symbolic. We've got a wolf, we've got a dog, we've got a crawdad or a crayfish coming straight out. There's a path leading to some other form of water back here, and 2 towers. There's the profile with this round, possibly full moon, but it can also be symbolic of an eclipse, and some sort of chalice with a flame. Interesting. Okay. All right. So the moon. Now, let's just use the weight deck since it's so popular. So here's this crawfish trying to get out of the water where the dog and the wolf are baying at the moon. The dog and the wolf baying at the moon are symbolic of our power of projection. So the moon is teaching us that we as creative people, as creative individuals, our function is to project onto the screen of space. And so whatever we project onto the screen of space, we experience. Oh, I've got an ant. We've had some heat, so the ants are trying to come in here to escape from the heat. Anyway, so the moon this card represents the ability to project without being connected to spirit. And so that's why the moon represents the illusory world, the world of illusion. Now, the crawfish is trying to come out of the depths, but tends to get pulled back in, tries to come out, but tends to get pulled back in. In that regard, this can represent that abyss that we must cross to get to the other side of illusion to find the truth. So when the moon card comes up in a reading, almost invariably, I have to remind the person to not judge by appearances. Whatever you're going through right now is not as it seems. Don't believe what you see. It's not the whole story. It's a projection. It's a projection. And when you learn how not to judge by appearances, then that actually takes you and gets your mind to a perspective where you can start to connect with spirit. Because when you're projecting with spirit, then you're projecting what the truth looks like. But when you're not projecting with spirit, you're just projecting from your own ego mind, then you're projecting whatever nonsense happens to be in your mind. And that's what most of us do. Most of us have disconnected ourselves and our projection capabilities from spirit. And so we are interacting with stuff that's not really there, or is there, but it's not what we think it is. So when we get the moon card in a reading, it's not as a lot of times people look at it as this negative card. Oh, there's so much illusion. Of course there's so much illusion. Welcome to Earth. Right? So this is an affirmation that the truth lies beyond what you see, to not accept what is in front of you as the truth because it's not, or it may be a partial truth. Now, the other thing from an esoteric point of view that you can look at the moon card as is you can think of this as a card that depicts astral projection. Astral projection, there's two worlds. There's the world where the crayfish is, and there's the world where the dogs are, or the dog and the wolf are. And the crayfish is trying to leave the pool and get onto the dry land where these dogs are. That is when we are trying to leave our experience of this mortal world and trying to move and project out into those inner planes, those astral planes where the causative world exists. So the moon card in that regards represents the causative plane and how we need to reconnect with spirit in order for the causative plane to start to cause things for us that we want. Right? And one of the ways that we do that, if you've taken my astral projection course, is by learning how to move into the etheric plane to begin with and not always just experience things from this physical world. So this is ultimately the moon card can also be the card of imagination, but it's imagination that's oftentimes divorced from wisdom. And so when we get the moon card, we don't want to just stop our imagination. We don't want to just stop the illusion, so to speak, or stop the projection. Instead, we want to invite spirit into the process so that what we're doing already with the moon card can have a better outcome for us, that the outcome can be reflective of the truth rather than reflective of the illusions of this world. I hope that makes sense. So the idea when you get the moon card is not to shut this down, it's to invite your inner guidance to be part of it, or to invite God, if you will, to be a part of the projection, so that what you're projecting is the way that you were meant to project. You see, we were meant to create in ways that expand our good, that expand our happiness, that expand our joy. That's how we are meant to create. But when we stopped allowing ourselves to feel at one with our Creator, then that projection process didn't stop, because that's how we're created. We're created as projectionists, basically. And so then we are sort of like putting ourselves through hexes and spells and glamours and illusions without even realizing it. So rather than when this card comes up, or when you're meditating on this card, rather than thinking that means that you should try to stop projecting, which you can't do, all it means to say is that you need to learn how to call on the power of your soul, which is connected to infinite intelligence, so that your projections start to conform to the divine design rather than to the neuroses of our minds. So it's a beautiful card. I actually love the moon card. I still have to do a meditation on the moon card, which is going to be coming. I have to do one on the Fool, and I have to do one on the Emperor. And I think that's all I've got left to do. So I've got to make that a priority and get those 3 meditations done within the next week or 2. And I'm going to do it. I don't care how busy I am. I'm going to make that happen, because enough already. Because this is a wonderful card. It's not a, quote, negative card like a lot of people say it is. It's just a card of what is. It is a card of what is. But it also represents what could be and what's missing. What's missing is your connection to infinite intelligence. But also, it's a reminder that don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by its cover. Like we just did that fairy tale about the Frog Prince. It's a perfect illustration of this. She thought she was dealing with a frog. But that wasn't a frog. That was a glamour that was cast by a fairy that was mad at the prince. She was interacting with the prince, but she didn't like the prince that much because it was a frog. And she was judging the frog because she was judging based on what she saw. But she made a promise to the frog, so she had to keep the promise. And finally, when she kept the promise, the frog transformed into its real self. Right? Because the glamour that was cast upon the frog is what she was interacting with before. But her decision to stick with her commitment is what carried her through to get to the reality, the truth. And that's a very wonderful little story to show you what the moon card is all about. Don't believe in appearances. Don't allow yourself to get stuck in the illusions of this world. Instead, recognize that there is truth behind that. And the way that you find that is by finding that inner guidance, that still small voice within you, so that you can reconnect to your soul, reconnect to your source, and start allowing your projections to be that reflect the truth rather than reflect the illusions in your mind. And also, by the way, the illusions are not just in your personal mind. They are projections of the group mind of the entire species and the history of our whole species. We're just sort of on autopilot. Project. And remember that this world has tons of negative prophecies that it deals with, how things are just going to get worse. There's all the stories and myths about all of the problems that we are supposed to confront. All of that is part of the moon, because we are sitting here as projection machines, sort of asleep to what we're doing, and we are all contributing to this experience. But it doesn't take everybody all at once to stop doing it. It just takes a couple of us, really, to stop doing that and to say, wait a minute, instead of just projecting by rote, I want infinite intelligence to project through me so I can see the truth on the other side of this. And that's what this, well, That's really what this dry land is the crawfish is trying to come out of imagination and to get onto the dry land, but it keeps getting pulled back into the pool. The reason it gets pulled back into the pool is because of that power of habit, and that's what the ego uses against us, is the power of habit. And we are so habitually used to projecting illusion and projecting just straight from the Akashic records onto the screen of space that until we really allow ourselves to wake up to what we're doing, we keep falling back into the pool, falling back into that habit. But we want to get out of that pool, get on the dry land, so that we can inform these hounds that are baying at the moon that they're baying at something that's not there. They're baying at something that's not there. And once that crawfish can stay on dry land, it can show those hounds what's what. Because this represents our imaginative faculties. All right, let me see if I have any questions. If not, I think we are done with this lesson for today. Doesn't look like we have any questions, but I am certainly glad that I was here with you, and I'm so grateful for you being here. And I will be on the premiere in about 10 minutes, and I hope that you are there with me. Thank you so much to the amazing moderators. Today we had Honeypaw and Deline, and we will see you all, I hope, tomorrow at Witchy Wednesday, and today at our premiere. Until next time, blessed be.